What if a single question could make her imagine undressing not her clothes, but her guard? Most men think seduction starts with charm, confidence, maybe a bold move. But that's not how desire works. You've been on that date, right? You're asking questions you've heard in 1,000 conversations before. So, what do you do? Where are you from? What do you like to do for fun? She smiles politely, gives short answers, and mentally checks out before the drinks even arrive. Here's what no one tells you. Women don't fall for words. They fall for what your words make them feel. And most of what men say feels predictable, feels safe, feels boring. But the right question, the kind that bypasses her logical mind and hits her curiosity like a spark in dry grass, that's when things shift. That's when her body leans in before her brain catches up. That's when you stop being just another guy and become an experience she can't shake. These aren't pickup lines. These are psychological triggers crafted to stir her imagination, tension, and desire without ever being explicit. If you've ever wanted her to crave you with just a look, it starts with what you ask. Let's get into it. Number 1. If I gave you 5 seconds of freedom, what would you do with me? It's not the question itself that seduces her. It's what it unlocks in her mind, the kind of permission that society never gives her, but her desire secretly craves. This question is bold, playful, but more than that, it's psychological. It drops her into a fantasy one where there are no rules, no expectations, just 5 seconds of raw, unapologetic freedom with you. Most women are not used to being asked this way. They're used to men playing it safe, trying to connect. I'm trying to be liked. But a question like this, it doesn't ask her to be proper. It asks her to imagine, to break her own patterns, to cross the line even if only in her head. And that's where the spark lives. Let me tell you about Mike. He's 47, divorced. Spent years trying to re-enter the dating world, always playing it too carefully. Dinner dates, movie nights, the same boring conversations. Until one evening at a rooftop lounge in Austin, he met Danielle, 35, corporate lawyer. Strong, sharp, always in control. They had talked for 30 minutes. Chemistry was building, but something was missing. She was guarded. Then Mike leaned in, looked her in the eye, and asked, "If I gave you 5 seconds of freedom right now, what would you do with me?" She blinked, smirked, looked away for a second, then smiled in a way Mike had never seen before. Why? Because in that moment, the frame shifted. He wasn't the guy trying to impress her. He was the man pulling her into a world she didn't expect, one where desire wasn't logical or polite. It was playful, dangerous, charged. And Danielle, she didn't give a direct answer. She just said, 5 seconds wouldn't be enough. When you ask this question, you're not trying to trap her. You're not expecting a literal reply. You're signaling something. With me, you don't have to filter yourself. And that's rare. That's magnetic. This works especially well with women who are always in control. Leaders, thinkers, professionals. They're tired of being worshipped. They're tired of men walking on eggshells. They want someone who isn't afraid to challenge the frame without being crude or disrespectful. And here's the Stoic twist. You're not attached to the answer. Like Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. But the Stoic knows true freedom isn't just external, it's internal. You're free from outcome. You're centered. You drop the question with calm confidence, then sit in the silence. That's power. You don't ask this with a smirk. You ask it like a man who knows he can handle whatever comes next, whether it's flirtation or rejection. And that confidence, that emotional stillness, that's the real seduction. So next time you're talking to a woman and you sense that spark starting to form, don't overthink. Look her in the eyes and ask, "If I gave you 5 seconds of freedom, what would you do with me?" You might be shocked at what she imagines. And more importantly, she'll associate that spark with you. Now tell me, are you the kind of man who dares to ask? Type it below. I own the moment. And stay with me. Because the next one might just flip the power dynamic in a way she's never felt before. Number 2. What do you think I'd do to you if no one was watching? This question is pure tension, not because it's graphic, but because it forces her to imagine something you never said out loud. That's the power of implication. You're not describing anything. You're not making a move. You're asking her to fill in the blank, and once her mind goes there, even for a second, it changes everything. Attraction isn't built on facts. It's built on tension, uncertainty, imagination. This question drops her right in the middle of all three, and it does something most men never achieve. It gets under her guard without breaking it. You're not asking for permission. You're not making a move. You're simply presenting a mirror and letting her own thoughts stir the chemistry. Why does it work? Because it's risky, but subtle. It's controlled chaos. Every word in that question is calculated. What do you think? You're giving her the power to decide what's real. I'd do to you, a soft, charged phrasing that suggests tension without crossing the line. If no one was watching, suddenly, all social filters are gone. Just her, you, and the thought. This flips the power dynamic. Most men are stuck trying to prove themselves. This question tells her, you're already thinking about me. You just haven't admitted it yet. And in that moment, if she is attracted to you, her brain will fill the gap with something far more intense than anything you could have said. That's what female psychology thrives on: suggestion, possibility, the unknown. Now here's where Stoicism gives you the edge. You don't need her to respond a certain way. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." You're not here to chase her thoughts. You're grounded in yours. You are the source of calm in the middle of rising tension. That's why this question only works when asked from a place of full emotional control. No neediness, no push, no sleaze, just presence and confidence. Because if you ask this like you're fishing for a reaction, she'll feel it. But if you ask it like a man who already knows his value, like someone who simply observes the moment and enjoys it without expectation, she'll feel something else entirely. She might laugh it off, or blush, or smirk and shoot back with a teasing reply. Doesn't matter. The point isn't her answer. The point is what her mind does when she hears it. That spark of imagery, that moment of psychological escape, that's what creates emotional residue, and that's what lingers when you're no longer in the room. The trick is to keep it clean. You're not turning this into dirty talk. You're simply making her realize, with you, the rules bend, not because you're reckless, but because you're unbothered by needing approval. And that's seductive in a way most men never even tap into. You're not in a rush to impress. You're not throwing compliments or seeking validation. You're making her imagination do the work. That's how a question becomes an experience. So next time you feel that tension start to simmer, drop this line calmly, casually, and without a smile. What do you think I'd do to you if no one was watching? Then pause, let her sit in the silence. Because the real answer isn't in her words, it's in her eyes. Type it below. I ask with calm. And the next question? It peels her guard off without her even realizing it. Stay with me. Number 3. What part of your body wakes up first when you're turned on? Now this is the kind of question that doesn't just spark curiosity, it sends electricity straight through her nervous system. You're not asking her to describe anything explicit. You're not crossing a line. You're opening a door, one that most men are afraid to even knock on. But here's the secret: when you ask, and ask it right, the moment becomes unforgettable. Let's break it down. This question is deeply sensory. It makes her tune into her body. Not her thoughts, not her logic, her physical self. That's why it's powerful, because most conversations keep her in her head. But this, it flips the switch. Now she's thinking in sensations, not words. And when a woman starts imagining what her body does when desire hits, she's no longer talking to just another guy. She's talking to the man who woke it up. I want to share an example. There's a guy named Greg, 54, a real estate investor in Tampa. Divorced, fit, but low-key. He started dating again after a long break, and like most men in his age bracket, he was frustrated. The apps were cold. The dates were predictable. Then he met Naomi. She was 42, ran a high-end skincare business, confident and sharp. On their second date, things were flowing. The wine was smooth, conversation open. Greg looked at her and said, calm and curious, "What part of your body wakes up first when you're turned on?" She paused, smiled, looked down, then gave the kind of answer that made the air feel warmer. Why did it work? Because Greg wasn't smirking. He wasn't acting like a teenager fishing for dirty talk. He asked it like a man who knows women feel first and think later. And when a man gives her permission to feel, to notice her body, without pressure, it creates a space of emotional safety and physical tension. That's where desire lives. Stoicism teaches, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Oh, so here's your rule. You only ask this when your presence is grounded. You only ask it when you're not asking to get something, you're offering her a chance to feel more alive. That's what makes the difference. If you ask this question from a needy or playful place, it'll feel off. But if you ask it with calm curiosity, from a centered frame, she won't just answer with words, she'll answer with energy, with subtle changes in tone, in eye contact, in the way her body shifts in the chair. Because now she's thinking about herself in that state, and associating it with you. Don't interrupt that. Let the tension rise. Keep your energy steady. Let her lead the space after the question, even if she gives a coy response. The real value isn't what she says, it's the shift that happens in her. So don't rush it. Deliver the question like an invitation, not a test. Sit back, hold eye contact, let her nervous system take over. That's what creates emotional imprint. And when she walks away from that conversation, whether she tells you or not, she'll replay it. Because no one's ever asked her that with presence, with confidence, with control. So ask it, and mean it. What part of your body wakes up first when you're turned on? Then leave space. Silence is seductive when your energy is solid. Type it below, I stir her senses, and get ready, because the next one's gonna flip the entire frame upside down. Number 4. What kind of man gets your attention without even trying? Now this one flips the script. It's not about you anymore. It's about what naturally pulls her. And that shift? It's subtle but surgical. When you ask a woman, what kind of man gets your attention without even trying? You're doing more than just poking curiosity. You're making her reveal her blueprint, her subconscious filters, her raw instincts. Most guys spend hours trying to figure out what women want. They try to become what they think women are attracted to. But this question, it bypasses the guesswork. It makes her say it. The brilliance lies in the phrasing, without even trying. It removes the obvious, the guys who chase, perform, or flex. It focuses her on the men who own the room effortlessly, who shift her attention without effort. And that, my friend, reveals everything. What kind of energy, what kind of presence, what kind of masculinity quietly commands her attention? She'll pause, think, maybe smirk. Then she'll start describing. Without realizing, she's giving you the exact map to where her desire lives. Some might say, I don't know, it's just a vibe. Others might say, someone who's quiet but confident. Someone who looks like he doesn't care who's watching. And right there she's speaking Stoic without even realizing it. Because what she's describing isn't flash or noise, it's control. She's describing the man who doesn't need to be seen to be felt. The man who walks into a room like he belongs there, not because he says so, but because his energy does. That's where Marcus Aurelius comes in. He once said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Now apply that here. The best attraction isn't chasing attention, It's being unlike every man who tries to force it. You become the exception. You're not needy. You're not loud. You don't seek validation. You embody your value, quietly, firmly. That's what she's subconsciously drawn to. And when you ask this question, you're not just making her think, you're making her compare. Her brain immediately filters past men she's known. The one guy in the corner she couldn't stop glancing at. The one who didn't flirt but somehow stayed in her mind for days. And as she answers, she's building an image. One you can now step into, not by faking anything, but by letting go of everything extra. Let her speak, don't interrupt. Watch her eyes. The more she talks, the more she leans into the idea of you being that guy. Not the one trying, but the one being. This isn't a line, it's a spotlight you hand to her, and in return, she gives you intel no dating coach could match. So here's how you deliver it. You lean back, you lower your voice just slightly, and you ask, what kind of man gets your attention without even trying? Let the silence breathe, don't fill it. And whatever she says, don't react like it's a test you passed or failed. Just listen, maybe nod, maybe smile, because this isn't about getting the answer you want. It's about watching how she reveals the energy she can't resist. And when that's you, she won't just tell you what grabs her attention. She'll start giving it to you, without even trying. Type it below. I ask to understand. What comes next? Oh, she'll never see it coming. Number 5. If I saw the real you, what would surprise me most? This is where everything changes. Because when you ask a woman this question, you're not flirting anymore. You're inviting her into emotional intimacy. And that is seductive in a whole different way. This question doesn't just grab her attention, it disarms her. It tells her, without saying it directly, I see through the layers, and I'm not scared of what's underneath. It's rare. Most men never go there. They stay surface level, what she does, what she wears, how she looks. But you're going deeper, and that sets you apart. Let me tell you a story that proves how powerful this really island. There's a man named David, 51, a divorced father of 2 from Austin. Clean-cut, calm, ex-military, a man who speaks when it matters and listens when it counts. He met a woman named Taylor, 38, a high-performing interior designer. Beautiful, yes, but guarded. She was used to being admired for her looks and her work, not for who she really was. On their 3rd date, over whiskey in a quiet rooftop bar, David looked at her with stillness and said, if I saw the real you, what would surprise me most? Taylor went silent. Not because she was offended, but because no one had ever asked her that, not without an agenda, not without trying to sound deep. David didn't ask it with expectation, he asked it from presence. She started slow, then she shared, about her fear of not being enough, about how she overworks to silence the noise, about a poem she wrote at 16 that no one's ever read. That night didn't end in a kiss. It ended in something stronger, trust. And here's the point. A woman can give her body to a man, but she only opens her soul when she feels seen. This question shows her that you're not just playing games, you're here to connect. Stoic philosophy reminds us, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Epictetus. So don't ask this question just to sound wise. Ask it because you mean it, because you actually want to know what's behind the mask. And when she answers, no matter what she says, honor it. Don't joke, don't fix, don't react too fast. Just hold space for her to be real. Women crave men who can handle their whole self, not just their body, not just their attitude, but the vulnerable, unfinished, complex parts of who they are. When you can meet her there, with strength and no judgment, she'll associate you with something she's rarely given, emotional safety. And here's the twist, it doesn't make you less masculine, it makes you irresistibly grounded. So how do you use this? When the energy is calm, the vibe is right, and she's opening up. Look her in the eye and say it like this. If I saw the real you, what would surprise me most? Then lean back. Let the silence do the heavy lifting. Let her fill the space. She might laugh, dodge, or tell you something small at first. Doesn't matter. You've already planted the seed. She'll think about it. And eventually, she'll want you to be the one who sees the answer. Type it below. I go beneath the surface. And get ready, the next question doesn't just flirt with her desires. It exposes them. Number 6. Would you rather be understood or devoured? This question doesn't come off as casual. It lands heavy, slow, and seductive, the kind of sentence that hangs in the air and makes her wonder if you're talking about something deeper or darker. See, on the surface, it sounds poetic, maybe even a little vague, but that's the point. This isn't about clear logic. It's about emotional tension. Because whether she answers understood or devoured, she's revealing something about how she wants to be seen, touched, or taken. And she can't answer this without dipping into that part of her that thinks in sensation, not language. Let's break it down. Would you rather be understood? That speaks to her emotional world. To be understood is to feel safe, known, accepted. It's intimacy of the soul. Or devoured. That's where the fire lives. To be devoured isn't about love or safety. It's about surrender. Raw, unfiltered surrender. No words, no walls, just pure presence and passion. So, when you ask this, you're not forcing her to pick one. You're inviting her to explore what lives beneath her typical answers. And that journey, even if it's just in her mind, triggers desire. Now, the beauty of this question lies in how open it island. She can play coy, she can laugh it off, she can flip it on you and ask, what would you rather do? Perfect. That's how you keep the dance alive. Because here's the truth, women don't want every answer. They want feeling, they want to imagine, and they want a man who isn't afraid to hold space for ambiguity, tension, and yes, heat. But to use this line right, you've got to embody it. And that's where Stoicism enters the picture. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." So when you ask this, don't say it to sound sexy. Say it because you're grounded enough to mean it, because you're not afraid of what it brings up. Women can feel the difference. A man who's chasing a reaction will feel like pressure, but a man who's still, calm, unbothered by the outcome, that's a man who can hold her fire without getting burned. Stoicism isn't about being cold, it's about being centered. You don't flinch. You don't beg. You don't try to impress. You let her reveal herself, and when she does, you remain solid. So here's how you use this question. Wait for that pause in conversation, that moment where there's already eye contact, maybe a slight shift in tone. You look at her calm, curious, and you ask, would you rather be understood or devoured? Then say nothing else. Let the silence stretch. Let her feel it, not just the question, but the man who asked it. She might smirk. She might shift in her seat. She might give you a real answer, or a playful one, or no answer at all. That's not the point. The point is, she felt something. You left a mark. And now, you're not just in the room, you're in her mind. Comment below. I stay in her thoughts. And get ready, because the next question plays with a kind of tension most men are too afraid to touch. Number 7. Do you believe in tension that doesn't need words? That question doesn't beg for a fast answer. It invites a moment, a pause, a breath. It slips into her subconscious and whispers something her body knows before her mind can explain. This is where most men fall off the edge. They talk too much, explain too much, fill every silence like they're afraid of losing her attention. But silence, when used right, is seduction. And tension? That's the electricity that runs between two people who haven't even touched yet. This question opens the door to that unspoken space. It's not just words, it's a feeling. It asks, can you feel me without me saying a thing? Let me give you a real story. There's a man named Greg, 52, who lives in Denver, divorced, business owner, successful but quiet. He'd been seeing a woman named Eliza, 39, smart, beautiful, emotionally intelligent. On their third date, they were sipping whiskey in a small jazz bar. They had already talked about their careers, past relationships, family. Then Greg leaned in, not to touch, not to kiss, just enough to lower his voice, and he said, "Do you believe in tension that doesn't need words?" She stopped. Her fingers froze around the glass. She held his gaze, not smiling, not blinking. That moment lasted 4 seconds. 4 seconds of silence. And it said more than 40 minutes of talking. Why? Because Greg didn't try to impress her. He invited her into a shared moment. A mental space where attraction simmers below the surface. He didn't pressure, he didn't follow up, he just watched her reaction and held the frame. That's the difference. Here's what most men miss. Women don't just listen to what you say, they tune into how you say it, why you say it, and what energy sits behind it. That's why this question only works when you've done the inner work, when your nervous system is calm. When you're not seeking validation, you're creating experience. As Epictetus wrote, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In this context, it's not just about the words you speak, but the presence you hold when you speak them. Greg wasn't trying to impress Eliza. He wasn't trying to game her. He was inviting her into stillness, into tension, into curiosity. That's Stoicism, in action, strength without noise, presence without pressure. So how do you use this? Timing is everything. Don't rush it out in the middle of surface conversation. Wait until the mood shifts, until the space between you feels warm, not awkward. Let eye contact linger. Let there be stillness. Then drop the line. Do you believe in tension that doesn't need words? Don't smile after. Don't fidget. Let her respond or not. It doesn't matter, because now she's feeling the question, not just hearing it. And if she leans in, if she plays with the silence instead of trying to fill it, that's your signal. This is the kind of question that makes her wonder about you, even when you're not in the room. It builds mystique, not through tricks, but through restraint. Comment below. I create tension, because the next question, it makes her feel like you already know her darkest fantasies, and that's where desire really begins. Number 8. When was the last time a man made you feel something real just by looking at you? This isn't a question you ask casually over coffee. It's the kind of question that cuts through the noise and lands directly in her nervous system. It's bold, it's specific, and it hits her exactly where desire begins in feeling seen. Most men underestimate just how much power exists in the way they look at a woman, not in a creepy, overbearing, I'm trying to dominate you kind of way. We're talking about presence, silent, intentional, grounded energy that holds her attention without needing to perform. You're not just asking her about her past here, you're triggering a present moment response. When you say this, you're planting a seed in her imagination that forces her to scan her memory, and if she can't find an answer, she starts wondering why not. Why hasn't she felt that way in a long time? Why hasn't she met a man who looks at her like she's more than just another woman? That's where this question sneaks in and unlocks something powerful, her longing to be deeply seen. And this is where Stoicism steps in to amplify your impact. Because in order to create that effect, to make her feel something real just by looking at her, you need internal control. You need clarity, stillness, and the ability to be fully present without distraction or need. Marcus Aurelius said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That quote, it's the foundation of this question. Because your gaze, your look isn't just about your eyes. It's about the calm behind them, the soul you're in control of. The man who doesn't need anything from her, yet chooses to engage with depth. That calm is rare. Most men are either trying too hard or totally disconnected. When you ask her this question, and you're looking at her with zero tension, zero fear, zero expectation. She feels that. And suddenly, you're the moment she remembers. Here's the key. Don't over-explain this question. Don't follow it up with chatter. Just let it hang. Let her wonder about it. Let the silence between you do the talking. That silence, paired with your steady gaze, is what creates tension. You don't chase the moment, you hold it. This is especially powerful when she's already slightly emotionally open, maybe after a laugh, a quiet beat in conversation, or when her guard is already down. That's when you lean in slightly, not physically, but emotionally, and ask, when was the last time a man made you feel something real, just by looking at you? Not playful, not sarcastic, just present. If she breaks eye contact, shifts in her seat, or smiles in a way that's half shy and half intrigued, that's your answer. You've stirred something. You've interrupted her patterns. She might answer with a story, or with silence. Either is fine. You didn't ask to get a clever reply. You asked to open a portal into her emotional world. And even if she doesn't say it out loud, she's thinking, is it happening right now? That's where this question lives, in the space between awareness and desire, between the eye and the heart. So don't rush it, don't explain it. And whatever you do, don't break the energy with a joke or an insecure chuckle. Hold your ground. Comment below, I see her. Line. Because the next question you'll ask doesn't just catch her off guard, it makes her feel like you know her deeper than anyone ever dared to. Number 9. What kind of silence turns you on? That question isn't casual. It's dangerous in the best way. It stops her, it disorients her, and most importantly, it seduces her mind. Why? Because we live in a world that fills every gap with noise. And when a man dares to use silence not as absence, but as presence, it changes everything. Let's break this down. When you ask, what kind of silence turns you on? You're not asking about sound. You're asking about sensation. You're asking about moments. You're asking about tension that doesn't need words. And you know who understands this better than anyone? A 52-year-old man named Derek from Arizona. Derek was recently divorced, trying to re-enter the dating world with more confidence and self-awareness. He met a 38-year-old woman named Riley during a casual social gathering. They hit it off, light conversation, shared values, a few laughs. But Derek didn't rush anything. He let moment breathe. He let silences stretch just a little without trying to fill the air. One night, while walking her to her car after dinner, he stopped mid-sentence, looked her in the eyes, and softly asked, what kind of silence turns you on? She didn't answer immediately. She just looked at him and smiled, slow, deep, and with something behind it. From that moment on, everything changed. Because Derek didn't just flirt. He created space for her to lean into. Now let's pull in some Stoic wisdom here, because this isn't just smooth talk. It's grounded power. Seneca once said, silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings. And here's the beauty. When you've lived through pain, you stop fearing quiet. You start to value it. You use it. Women can feel that. They can tell the difference between a man who avoids silence and a man who wields it. The question works because it forces reflection not only on moments of sensuality, but on emotional safety. She has to think about where she felt turned on in stillness. Was it in a quiet car ride? A long stare? That pause before a kiss? It opens the floodgates of memory and desire, all with one sentence. But here's where it gets deeper. When you ask this question, you're telling her something without saying it. You're not afraid of stillness. You're not needy for noise. You're not performing. And more importantly, you understand that presence is louder than any pickup line. Now, this only works if your body language matches your intention. You can't ask this while fidgeting or avoiding eye contact. You ask it slowly, calmly, with the kind of quiet confidence that comes from owning your energy. Let her take her time answering. Let her feel the moment, not just the question. And don't be surprised if she responds not with words, but with a look, a lean, or even a shift in the way she stands next to you. That's the power of silence. You're not breaking through her defenses. You're inviting her deeper into herself and letting her bring you with her. That's rare. That's magnetic. That's unforgettable. Drop a comment. I am the pause. Because in the next question, you're not just exploring desire. You're pulling her into the exact moment where fantasy starts to become memory. Number 10. What would you want me to notice without you saying a word? This question doesn't flirt. It penetrates. It peels past the surface and lands straight in the unspoken, the place most men never reach, and most women desperately wish they would. Because here's the truth. Every woman has something she wishes a man would notice without being told. It could be how she wears her necklace differently when she's nervous, the way her eyes linger just a beat longer when she's truly into the moment, or the subtle drop in her energy when she doesn't feel seen. You're not just asking what she wants you to look at. You're asking her, what part of you do you secretly hope I have the awareness to witness? And that's powerful, because this isn't about giving her attention. It's about showing her you have the depth to pick up on the things most men miss. Let's bring this into the psychology. When a man shows attuned awareness, it sends a message beyond attraction. It signals emotional intelligence, sexual maturity, and dominant presence, all without being overt or pushy. You're not trying to impress her. You're tuning into her. You're saying, I'm here, and I see more than you think. That's rare. And it's why this question flips a switch. Because now she's thinking, what does she hope you'll notice? Is it something physical? Something emotional? A hidden side of her sensuality that she keeps guarded? When you ask this, she's not answering for fun. She's revealing what she wants to be seen and still respected for. That's intimate. That's trust. That's where real desire lives. Now here's the deeper layer, and this is where we connect back to Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you ask this question, you're inviting her into her inner thoughts, and you become the man who helps her express them. That's the kind of interaction that etches itself into her mind. Because you're not just playing the attraction game. You're building a moment she'll replay long after the conversation ends. She's not used to this. Most men don't look for what can't be said. They rush into validation, performance, and noise. But you sit back. You ask one devastatingly simple question, then you watch, you wait, you listen with more than your ears. And when she starts to speak, or maybe just smile and look away, you know she's letting you in. That's not game, that's gravity. And once you're that man in her mind, the one who noticed without needing to be told, you don't leave. She might meet other men. She might even date someone else. But you'll be the one she remembers, because you saw something she didn't have to perform to reveal. That's how obsession starts, quietly, deeply, and with one simple, intentional question. And that wraps up the last question. You've just added the sharpest tools to your mental arsenal, and none of them require loudness, ego, or flash. Just awareness, presence, power. The kind of power that doesn't chase desire, it triggers it. So now you've got 10 questions, but these aren't just conversation starters. They invite subtle doors into a woman's desire, curiosity, and vulnerability. Most guys will never ask these questions. Most guys will never dare to. But you're not most guys. You're the kind of man who doesn't just chase connection. You create it through words that unlock her mind, not just her body. If this resonated with you, if you felt the shift, hit that subscribe button. Join a space where depth meets desire, and silence says more than noise ever could. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.